minutes ago, he emailed me back that he got my message. We were all down here.
I talked to him. I told him verbally and said, "We did."
Paul, I'm going to stay up here because for the redistricting information for all the public comments, I got my 2 screens up. So that's okay.
All right.
All right.
After the meeting, I'll come up and sign that resolution.
I can bring it down to you too, Dave. That works too.
Okay, I'll wait for you.
I stole this now.
Is he going to just stay up there?
I stole the mouse.
Okay.
During the meeting.
Okay.
Can you just do that?
You ready? All right, 7 o'clock. So we'll call the September 15th Dunn County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States of America.
and to the
The
republic
Republic for which it stands,
For which it stands.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Apologize for not sharing my screen, but hopefully you all had a flag to refer to.
Yeah, and that's why Nick and I turned around and looked at the flag behind us, so you got to see our backs. All right, we'll have the clerk call the roll.
Supervisor Johnson,
Here.
Supervisor Headland,
Here.
Supervisor Score,
Here.
Supervisor Steen,
Here.
Supervisor Zons,
Here.
Supervisor Bjork, Gary Bjork, Supervisor Maves,
Here.
Supervisor Quinn,
Here.
Supervisor Rogers,
Here.
Supervisor
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Supervisor Kinnear,
Here.
Supervisor Cromry, Supervisor Calabrese,
Here.
Supervisor Keeter,
Here.
Supervisor Vogel,
Here.
Supervisor McCullough,
Here.
Supervisor Story,
Here.
Supervisor Vandermeulen,
Here.
Supervisor Niehoff,
Here.
Supervisor Morehouse,
Here.
Supervisor Kennedy,
Here.
Supervisor Tripp,
Here.
Supervisor Prochnow,
Here.
Supervisor Jensen,
Here.
Supervisor Larry Bjork,
Here.
Supervisor Bauer,
Here.
Supervisor Lenow,
Here.
Supervisor Hartung.
Here.
Chairman Bartlett.
Here. All right, thank you. We have a quorum. Start with approval of the minutes. Has anybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
I so move.
Second. All right, Brian Johnson seconds. I didn't catch who made the motion. Was that Gary Steen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Steen moves and Supervisor Johnson second. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll call the public hearing to order for the redistricting map of Dunn County. And we'll start with Steve and Rachel showing us the map and explaining what has gone into why the changes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Kochaver, the Land Information Officer, and Rachel Wells is presenting her screen. She is our GIS specialist here. So we've been working on the mapping for this go around of the redistricting. So we usually do this in January of the decade. This year with COVID, we didn't get the census data released to us until August 16th. So that put us way behind on that. So we got the census data. So in a nutshell, the county is at 45,440 persons. In 2010, it was 43,857. That's a difference of 1,512 people. Not too significant, but we saw a shift in where those populations were. A lot of growth over on the east end of the county, towards Springbrook, Colfax, and in that area, Tainter was a big winner. And then a few in the city, north end of the city, up by a lot of that new development north of Walmart there. So given all that, with the census blocks delivered to us, we were given the task of taking that 45,440 persons and dividing it by 29, the amount of supervisors, giving us a target number of 1,567 persons for each district. And that's the number that we try to achieve. And the federal guidelines say that we should be within 5% of that number one way or another. And you can see Rachel has her screen with her cursor going. I hope you can all see. So that was the task at hand. When we took this new census data and put the current districts over the top of it, in other words, what we're dealing with now, we had a deviation. In other words, that 10% rule, we were over 43% out of whack. So that means we had some pretty serious line work to do to get that back in alignment to meet that 10% deviation goal. So that's what we did. We started looking at municipal boundaries and, cities, villages, towns, natural boundaries, rivers, roads, and those kinds of things, and met with the redistricting committee that was put together by Supervisor Bartlett, and we came up with a tentative plan. And that tentative plan was sent out to you folks, I believe, and to the municipal clerks and other public officials throughout the county. They had a chance to look through it and make comments. And so that public hearing now is where we're at, to look at that tentative map and say, the key word being tentative, yes, let's approve this, pass this on to the next phase, which would be on to the municipalities themselves, the local munis, the villages, the towns, the city, and let them look at it and see and get their feelings, their thoughts, their ideas of these new district lines that we've created. So that's it in a nutshell. If anybody has anything else to add, please chime in. And
All right, I can only see about 4 people, so if somebody has a question or needs to add something, please speak up. Thank you, Rachel and Steve.
Public comments.
So if we have no questions, we will meet with, do we have anybody for the public hearing, Krista, that are waiting to speak?
I do not have anybody waiting.
All right. Andrew has a couple of emails, I believe. Andrew, are you ready to share those?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Chairman Bartlett. Thank you. We received 3 public comments based on the redistricting that we wanted to make sure are part of the record. On September 13th, 2021 at 10:49 a.m., Sally Rasmussen, who is the clerk for the town of Dunn, wrote the following. Good morning. Thank you for the time and effort put into the redistricting process. I have assessed the maps online today and I see some confusion. Having the river as a boundary was nice for the election process, as we could just ask voters if they were on the north or the south side of the river. Now, the town of Dunnsville is in a different district than the town hall, but the town hall is in the town of Downsville. Very confusing. We also do not have internet at the town hall, so we cannot access these maps when we need to get voter information. Why did the town of Downsville get removed from the District 28? Thank you. The best route is to keep the river as a border. Our board will be unable to make the 15th meeting as our town board meeting is also on the 15th. Thank you, Sally Rasmussen, Clerk, Town of Dunn.
If I may recommend, perhaps as we take these questions from the public, we can ask Steve or Rachel to respond.
Rachel, would you like to respond to this question?
Yeah, sure, we can. And Rachel, please feel free. We're both pretty involved with these decisions here. 28 and 29 were a little tricky. You can see those blocks there showing up. I hope everybody can see. There's a 22 there and a 23 and a 55. So those are the blocks that we were dealt, and that's what we're piecing together. As we add one, the total goes up. If we pull one off, the total goes down, and so forth. So we were really trying to stay within that 5% on these. And so that's kind of why we did what we did and moved that District 29 line over to the east to gain Downsville, unincorporated Downsville. And then moved it over to Highway 25. It goes off of what we currently have now. I know that, but again, we were tasked with this tentative plan and try to make the numbers work. So it's kind of a domino thing when you start to take one block and then pull it off of another block, and then that district goes low or goes high. It's kind of a delicate balancing act to stay within that, under that 10%. Another criteria or thing that we had in mind was the incumbents, the current incumbents, and try to preserve that, so those folks stay in their district too. So that may not have been involved in this particular one, but on some others we looked at that. So again, a tentative plan. It was our best shot at this, and Sally makes some good points. I didn't really realize they did not have internet in their town hall area there, which I don't know if that affects redistricting or not, but it certainly is a concern. So her points are well taken. We're taking these under advisement. We're logging them. We've got a spreadsheet. We're putting those all in, and as we move through the process into the ward creation and then the reconciliation phase, where we look at this again, take those ideas under consideration and make some decisions. That's certainly part of the whole process. So,
If I may, Mr. Chair, for a point of clarification. So if we were to take that 22 block, the 123 above it was a 55 and some single digits, and place them back in the adjacent district to the east, we'd have to find an equal number from somewhere else, either again from 28, perhaps north of there, to try to compensate. And it becomes a balancing act. If you put those back in, what do you take away in order to retain that more or less equal population? So it really is as Steve said, a domino kind of effect. We can't simply move the line back. We have to reconcile it somehow by absorbing the lost population from somewhere else likely in District 28. But to reiterate Steve's point, these are the kind of comments that we do need, and we will log, we will consider, and try to, if it's possible, adjust in the final version of the redistricting plan. Is that correct?
That sounds good to me. And right, yes, that's the way it's set up. You know, with these 4 phases of the tentative, then the wards, then the reconciliation, the aldermanic districts, and then final approval of the map that basically everyone can agree upon, if that's possible. But the best map we can do for everyone involved. Thank you.
So process-wise, the upshot is we won't be looking to amend the map tonight. What we are looking for is the very kind of comments that Ms. Rasmussen raised that we can consider for future iterations of the redistricting plan. It's probably best, since this is the one that we've distributed, that we keep this one consistent so that we have everybody commenting on the same version of the redistricting map. And then take all of those comments and make a single second iteration, if you will, of the redistricting map once we've gathered all those comments together.
All right, thank you. Andrew, you have another correspondence?
Yes, Chairman Bartlett, we have 2 more. The second public comment came from Tony Christopherson, who is the chairman for the town of Elkbound. On Tuesday, September 14th at 1:59 p.m., Mr. Christopherson wrote the following. Hello, the old map used I-94 as district line on the west side of the town of Elkbound. The proposed map has changed to using railroad tracks as the boundary line. It has come to the attention of the town board that the owners of parcels, there's several parcels listed, plan to build 1 duplex building on each lot, with concrete possibly being poured this fall. The numbering sequences seems odd, but it is what I find on the GIS site. Tanners, the owner of parcel 1700822811183400006 are in the process of dividing it into 12 lots with the plan to put a duplex on each lot. Tom Carlson is currently working on this. These 2 actions would add approximately 32 family living units to this area. In the short time I have been on the board, people have amazed me concerning their lack of understanding where they live. I think it was the presidential election last fall when a voter arrived less than 30 minutes before closing time at the Elkbound Town Hall and needed to register to vote. It was determined that they lived in the town of Wheaton. We are not sure if they reached the correct polling place on time. The proposed map will have a small group of people north of I-94 and south of the tracks talking to their neighbors and being confused who is their county board member. My concern is that anytime we can simplify the voting process, both the electors and poll workers will go home happier. During my conversations with Rachel, I tried to express my understanding of your goal to keep the districts of a smaller size and use natural boundaries. I will understand if this is the best that can be done. Some other information on future growth is that the village of Elkbound was/is in the process of setting up a TIF district for new housing south of Highway 12 in the east part of the village. When I traveled through there last Saturday, there was dirt moving, sitting there that had just moved a lot of dirt. Thank you, Tony Christopherson, Chair, Town of Elkbound.
All right.
Can I respond real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So I talked to Mr. Christopherson, emailed him back first, and then he called me. So we talked a little. So this is District 26 and 7. When I took those blocks that Mr. Christofferson had mentioned and put them back into 7, we jumped up to about 5.6% deviation. That's unfortunate, you know, for 12 people, I believe that's not a lot of persons, but it does jump that number up. So that's why we did that, because there's really nowhere else in that District 7 to pull those, you know, to pull those off from now. If you zoom out a little, Rachel, and kind of zoom around that district, thank you. You can see that we're bounded by the township lines and some really big blocks. You can see those 155 blocks. And so these got a little tricky on the east side over here, as I mentioned, where all that population seems to be shifting and those blocks got much bigger. So that was that decision to move those into 26. So not saying, again, it's a tentative plan and we can look at that, but it certainly is a good point. And as far as the you know, the development in there, well, we are dealing with 2020 census data that we got, and I guess that's what we're going to use and go with. So in 2030, you know, that may be a big set of blocks in there, and it probably will be. And then there's always midterm districting that could be done, but I don't think that's a very good option either. So I did talk to Mr. Christofferson and emailed him back on that one.
All right, thank you. Andrew, you have another one?
Yes, the third and final public comment of the evening is from Mary Strand, who is the clerk for the town of Springbrook. On Wednesday, September 15th, 2021 at 1:16 p.m., Ms. Strand wrote the following. Hello. The proposed redistricting map for the town of Springbrook uses County Road C for most of the township. I'm concerned, however, of the area to the eastern portion of our township, as the boundary leaves County Road C and trails along Elk Creek as a portion of 960th Street. This causes confusion for voter registration in determining place of residence being west or east of the creek, plus north or south of 960th Street. The most logical route or boundary for the town of Springbrook would be the County Road C straight across the township. I have shared this feedback with the county clerk and the Land Information Office. Thank you, Mary Strand, clerk for the town of Springbrook.
Did you want to respond to this, Steve?
Yes, I would. In fact, I think Rachel worked on this with Mary. So Rachel, would you care to comment on this one?
Yeah, yep. So as she mentioned, it's this particular block being within District 26 that is the one that's concerning. So 906th Street is right here. And then the creek is right here. So yes, there would be, if there were multiple people who lived on this road, it would be, it could be confusing for administrating elections. So one of the proposed solutions was just to put this block back in, but when we did try and do that, it did shift the population for District 27 to be too high. So there would have to be some that would need to come out of a neighboring district to help make that population equal. So just like we've been talking about, that delicate balance. So we'll just be in contact with Mary throughout this process to see if there's population that can be shifted from one district to the other. We did explore some solutions and there might be some viable ones. So we'll just, that's kind of the next phase, is to work through them. So. But yeah, that's a very population dense block. So moving that block into this southern district would push them over that threshold.
All right, thank you. Do you have any other information to share with us, Steve or Rachel or Andrew?
I would just like to note that we do have a redistricting site on our main Dunn County page website, and it's been that's a great thing. This is my third redistricting, 2000, 2010, and now 20, and this is most automated and actually the most public comments that I've seen. And I think it's great to get the, you know, the local municipalities involved and able to look at these digital maps instead of the hard copies that we used to do. So I think it's a really good plan and a good process going forward. And I like the communication. So.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Um,
Supervisor Bjork.
just a question, I suppose everyone else knows the small number block that they're talking about.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Bjork, you kind of broke up on that, and I don't know if I
Okay.
caught, sorry.
Well, within the district, you talk about the blocks all the time, and those are those irregular shapes with different
Yes.
numbers in them.
Yes,
Do those numbers represent the number of people living in that block?
that's correct. That's the number of people that responded back to the census. And yes, so that's the number of persons. It's broken down as Rachel's showing there. So yes, that is correct. That's a number of people in that particular block.
So I mean, when I see here in the town of Springbrook where there is one person that lives in a huge block, I mean, you know, that must be 360 acres.
I know, and that's not uncommon, but maybe only one person responded back to the census too, you know. So we see a lot of variation on those block numbers, but this is what they gave us, and that's what we go with. So, and when you get into the city, it gets a little more challenging when you get into the dorms and the student housing and that kind of thing. These, you know, you can see.
Well, thank you very much for your work.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for the good question. That's important point.
Are there any other questions? I can only see about 4 people, so
Supervisor Bauer here. I got a question.
go ahead, Supervisor Bauer.
On all these different townships, how many are going to have to create more wards because of the population increase?
Yeah, it's a good question. I believe, if Rachel help me out on this one, I know town of Sherman.
Yep.
And probably the village of Boyceville, because if you're over 1,000 persons in population, then you have to have a ward plan, and your ward has to be between 300 and 1,000 persons. So I think Boyceville is just like 1,030. I not off the top of my head, but they are over that now. So they may have to, but that's not a process or a result of our redistricting, but more of their growth. So we really try to minimize that newly created ward situation for the munis and the townships, but we couldn't not avoid that on 8 and 9. So you can see the pink on 9 going into town of Sherman now. And that would be a new ward, I believe. Rachel, is that correct?
Yes, that was the one that previously town of Sherman had not had a ward plan because it was encompassed by one supervisor. So this change here to extend 9 into 8 would precipitate the town of Sherman to have a ward plan, even though they have under 1,000 persons. The other townships had already had multiple wards. Those boundaries may have changed ever so slightly just because of the shifts in populations, but they already did have multiple wards, and it shouldn't be, or hopefully isn't too terrible of a process to just adjust those. Yep, but we were very mindful of that, because one piece that the municipalities have to do is they have to try and keep their ward lines as permanent as possible too. And sometimes with that shift in population, though, it's not possible, but we were mindful of our municipal clerks as well when we were going through this process, you know, maintain those principles of equal population and things like that. but also understanding the ramifications on the municipal clerks. So we did try and keep that in mind.
Anything else? Any other questions? If not, if any supervisors want to comment to Steve and Rachel, I would suggest that you contact them and make your comments about the tentative map. Anything else? All right, you can stop sharing your screen then, Rachel. Thank you. At this moment, I need a resolution adopting the tentative plan. Supervisor Brian Johnson moves. Supervisor Steen seconds. Any questions, concerns? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Moving on to number 7, presentation of petitions, memorials, and other communications. Recognition of retiring county employees, Michael Knudsen of 27 years at the Highway Department, and Carrie Sandberg, 24 years in Circuit Court. Wow, a wealth of experience there, over 50 years. Is there anything else from the county clerk? You have anything?
Not at this time.
All right. Well, we want to thank those 2 employees for their years of service to Dunn County. That's really, it's really something. Moving on, is there any public comments for this meeting tonight?
No public comment.
All right, thank you. Appointments, we do not
Excuse
have.
me,
Yes. Hold
I have
on.
a question. How do I get this note off of my screen that says this meeting is being recorded? I can't see anything but
Just
that.
push the blue button. Put your mouse on that blue button and,
The one that says got it or the one that says,
yep, hit got it with your mouse.
okay, that didn't do much.
You usually have to do it twice.
Okay, now I got it. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
It was hard to keep track of what's going on when you just have that blaring at you.
Yeah. All right, we are down to number 10, the report of the county manager. A, zoning administrator planner, the information.
I'm pleased to announce that we have someone who has accepted the position of our zoning administrator, county planner. Her name is Anna Wodarczyk. Oh boy, I'm going to butcher it every time. Wodarczyk. She started today. She came to us from St. Croix County. She worked in the zoning office there. So she's got a great deal of familiarity with zoning processes, public hearings, special exceptions, variances, zoning inspections. She has familiarity with planning functions. Had a good opportunity to meet her today again after the interviews the first time. Get her onboarded, let her know a little bit about our county, where our priorities lie, where our needs lie. She's a well-spoken individual. She comes to us with a good breadth of experience. She's eager to learn. Bob Colson, our previous zoning administrator, has been working in a consultant capacity as the interim zoning administrator and will continue for a little bit so that he has an opportunity to orient Anna to how we do things here, where our issues are, what our processes are. And we're very excited to have her and look forward to her contributions.
Any questions? If not, moving on, do you have anything to add on the redistricting process?
I would like, if I may, ask our county clerk to just do a brief summary of, for the board, of the steps from here.
Sure, absolutely. So now that the tentative redistricting map for the supervisory districts have been approved, starting tomorrow, Rachel, Steve, and I will put that information to the 30 municipal clerks within Dunn County. And they have a little bit over a month to review the process, make any ward additions that they might need, like in the town of Sherman, and provide their feedback on any changes that they would like to see happen. They have to do this and adopt it at their village, town, or city council meetings. And then the information is due back to our office on October 18th, so that we can prep through the reconciliation process between what the municipalities want and what we are able to do before the final plan would be presented to the Dunn County Board of Supervisors at the November 9th meeting. I will just note that this has been a very compressed timeframe versus normal. I know that Steve Kochaver has said that this is his last redistricting process he'll go through. We're hoping maybe not. Maybe he will still be around in 2030. We'll have to see. But that's the process going forward. Are there any questions on the redistricting process?
I do, Supervisor Leno.
Go ahead, Supervisor Leno.
So in the event that there are recommendations, do we bring those to the group of three there regarding that? Or do we have to wait until the full board until October?
Supervisor Leno, you can provide that information at any point in time.
Okay.
The municipalities will be looking at their prospective districts and wards for the next month. But any information that we receive in our office, as Steve Kochaver had mentioned earlier, is being documented and tracked so that we make sure that we know when the information was received and when the information was responded to, and eventually how it's incorporated into the final plan.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? If not, moving on to purchase orders, Mr. Miller.
You have in the packet of materials distributed for this meeting, as usual, the purchase orders over $40,000. Many of them are self-explanatory, in particular the ones for highway, hot mix, and dense grade base. One piece of equipment, emulsion oil, always an important item. You may have noted tough books under administration IT. Those are laptop books, basically, for the sheriff's office that's acquired through COVID funds. You may also have noted the Lenovo desktops. That is part of the annual cycle of replacing desktops on a regular, I think it's a 5-year schedule. Many of those are at the Human Services, but that's part of our regular 2021 capital improvements plan. That's just the purchase of them. As at the bottom, you'll see there's 5 different references to bonds. The first one, the 2013A general obligation bonds, that was paid off. That is a payoff. We refinanced that earlier this year. The other 4 are semi-annual payments on other notes and bonds for the county. Any questions on the purchase orders over $40,000? If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to number 11. Reports of departments. We've got them all in our packet. Starting with Corporation Counsel.
Okay.
Would you like to add anything or highlight anything in your, Mr. Lang?
Thank you. No, I don't really have anything to add, but if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions on the Corporation Council's report? I like the history of it. Thank you. I appreciated reading that. Moving on to facilities. I don't.
Scott Nubbyfeld is here.
Okay, Scott, is there anything you would like to highlight or just ready for questions?
Nothing I'd like to highlight, just if anybody has any questions, please ask.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Scott on the facilities report?
Mr. Chair.
Edlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Scott, I appreciated your list of volunteer organizations that help you with a lot of the facility, county facilities, parks and such, shooting ranges. Is that continuing to be a good manageable way to get that done for you? Or are there any kinks in it that you'd like to work out?
It has been a very good manageable way to do improvements and upkeep on our parks. The Old Galley Sportsman's Club, for one, is doing a fundraiser every year, and plan every year they do some upgrades to that park, which really makes it nicer for all the users. I've also been contacted by the group out of Boyceville that want to get back into helping out more with Northwest Landing and a couple of the other parks. So it's really good having those relationships and those groups that want to help out with our parks.
Are there any other questions about the facilities report? Supervisor Bauer.
Yeah, I know everybody's familiar with the bridge in Rock Falls being out, but there was a county park right there. I was just wondering, I think if I know right that the town had turned it down, if you're going to donate to the town of Rock Creek, what's going to happen to that?
From what John Swirsky has relayed to me is that with the state taking out the dam and redoing all that area, they're going to redo that park so that the park will still be there.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions on the facilities report? If not, we'll move on to the Dunn County Fair report. Deb, are you?
She is here.
Okay, Deb is here. So you have anything you would like to highlight, or is there any questions on the fair report?
I don't have anything, I guess, really to highlight other than I appreciate the support of the county board. I hope you were all able to attend the fair. We had nice crowds, a lot of neat activities. I hope you got to go see Big Eddie. He's probably the biggest pig we had in the market sale this year, and he loves Donut Sam's donuts, and you could have fed him if you were at the fair. So we had several new things at the fair this year and hope to continue bringing new things every year. So if anybody has questions, I certainly can answer those.
Are there any questions on the fair report?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Supervisor Larry.
First of all, thank you, the county board, for appointing me to the Dunn County Fair. It's was a wonderful experience, and I want to give a real kudos to the facilities guys that were there doing all and everything that needed to be done. And Dunn County Fair is an interesting place. You can sit at a free stage and listen to entertainment. Look over the top of the building and see black smoke from a tractor pull, and see people enjoying themselves on the midway all at the same time. Deb does a wonderful job, and just thanks again from my point of view of being able to be part of it.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments on the fair report? If not, I will move on to the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission report. That's also in your packet. I know Lynn Nelson is with us. Lynn, do you have anything you would like to highlight from your report? If not, are there any questions for Lynn?
Good evening. Your packet includes the 2020 annual report for the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission and the Regional Business Fund. And that's inclusive of projects that we've worked on throughout the region during that time frame. But then I also included a memo that summarizes what we've been working on for 2021 specific to just Dunn County. So if you have any questions on those items, I'd be happy to answer those.
Anybody have any questions for Lynn? I don't see any. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Then we'll move on to item number 12, consideration of resolutions, reports, and ordinances from the standing committees. From the executive committee, a resolution approving FY21 budget adjustment for Human Resources Division, Department of Human Services, Sheriff's Department, and Public Health Departments. I need a motion for this. Supervisor Morehouse moves, Supervisor Lino seconds. Speaking to this.
I believe Keith Stray is with us.
Okay, Mr. Stray, do you want to?
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
This is a combined resolution as we historically do. And it's combining a number of budget resolutions or budget adjustments that have been proposed or recommended from standing committees. If approved, it would increase the budget by $218,435. And essentially, it's for additional funds that have been received by the county for additional allocations from the state of Wisconsin or grant funds. Recommendation is to approve.
Thank you. Are there any questions before we vote? If not, this is a roll call vote, so we'll have the clerk call the roll.
Supervisor Hartung.
Yes.
Supervisor Hartung votes yes. Supervisor Headland.
Yes.
Supervisor Headland votes yes. Supervisor Jensen.
Yes.
Supervisor Jensen votes yes. Supervisor Johnson.
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson votes yes. Supervisor Kennedy.
Yes.
Supervisor Kennedy votes yes. Supervisor Kinnear.
Yes.
Supervisor Kinnear votes yes. Supervisor Cromrain.
Yes.
Supervisor Cromrain votes yes.
County board meeting.
Supervisor Keeter.
Yes.
Supervisor Keeter votes yes. Supervisor Leno.
Yes.
Supervisor Leno votes yes. Supervisor Maves.
Yes.
Supervisor Maves votes yes. Supervisor McCullough.
Yes.
Supervisor McCullough votes yes. Supervisor Morehouse.
Yes.
Supervisor Morehouse votes yes. Supervisor Niehoff.
Yes.
Supervisor Niehoff votes yes. Supervisor Prochnow.
Yes.
Supervisor Prochnow votes yes. Supervisor Quinn.
Yes.
Supervisor Quinn votes yes. Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers votes yes. Supervisor Score.
Yes.
Supervisor Score votes yes. Supervisor Steen.
Yes.
Supervisor Steen votes yes. Supervisor Story.
Yes.
Supervisor Story votes yes. Supervisor Tripp.
Yes.
Supervisor Tripp votes yes. Supervisor Vandermeulen.
Yes.
Supervisor Vandermeulen votes yes. Supervisor Vogel.
Yes.
Supervisor Vogel votes yes. Supervisor Zons.
Yes.
Supervisor Zahn votes yes. Supervisor Anderson.
Yes.
Supervisor Anderson votes yes. Supervisor Bauer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bauer votes yes. Did Supervisor Gary Bjork join us?
Yes.
Supervisor Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Larry Bjork.
Yes.
Supervisor
Yes.
Larry Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Calabrese.
Yes.
Supervisor Calabrese votes yes. Chairman Bartlett. Chairman Bart.
Technical difficulties.
There you go. Chairman Bartlett.
Yes.
Chairman Bartlett votes yes.
All right. Thank you.
Nice
We're
having
having technical difficulties there for a couple of minutes while you're voting. Okay, thank you. The resolution passes. Announcements. If there's any questions on the budget from any of the supervisors, the executive committee looked at the budget on this last month or this last week. If you wanted to watch that on YouTube, that would be maybe helpful for you. If you have any questions at all, don't, feel free to contact any of us, myself, Mr. Miller, Mr. Stride, any of us. And if there's anything with the redistricting, I would suggest that you go ahead and contact Andrew, Steve, or Rachel probably sooner than later so they can look at the numbers. Is there anything else?
Yes, the county clerk sent an email today regarding the October meeting of the county board. We need to shift it 1 week to October 13. Please respond to his email to indicate your agreement to that shift. We need a majority in order to hold that meeting. It's being moved 1 week in order to accommodate the statutorily required public notification for the budget public hearing, which by statute will take place on November 9. So we do need to move that October meeting up 1 week. So please do respond to that email at your earliest opportunity.
And the budget information that is on the website should be updated sometime early next month, I would guess, at the latest. Is that not right, Keith?
Yes, Mr. Chair, before the executive committee, there will be a full update that will be provided.
Yes. Anything else? All right. We are adjourned.